To a lot of people without houses, this empty lot in inner Southeast is home. But according to someone on YouTube, it's actually a secret tent city paid for by our city to house Antifa. It isn't, of course, but problem is a lot of people are now spreading that misinformation online and even threatening to burn the place down. Hey, when you get your voter pamphlet this year, it might be missing something, a statement from the Oregon GOP, because the Secretary of State says they missed the filing deadline by 29 seconds.
Missed it by that much.
And tonight, the story boldly goes where the story has not gone before. We're starting the show by talking about weather. And after Matt Zaffino tells us how bad the fire danger is, you'll understand why. Here's the story. It is windy out, big time, not in here. This is climate controlled. Thanks for being with us. I'm Dan Haggerty. Welcome to the story. We're checking emails throughout the show as we always do. I read some comments at the end. We answer your questions every single night, as you will see, or as you already know if you're a regular watcher here of the story. So let us know what you're thinking. Send us your emails to thestory@kgw.com. You can find me on Facebook, Dan Haggerty KGW, or use Twitter in the hashtag HeyDan. Shall we? And right now, we are smack in the middle of our big story, a trifecta of problems. It is really hot, it is really windy, and it is really dry. You might be wondering, but Dan, dude, it's fire season. It always gets hot, dry, and windy at some point, and you're correct. It does, but not like this. I try to explain, but I do a bad job. Matt won't, though. Matt, you have been calling this a historic wind event. Historic how exactly?
We only see this setup, this particular situation where we're getting really strong east winds while it's hot like this, still summer, early September, maybe 2-3 times a century, Dan. That's why it's historic. Now, if this was, say, November, December, January, February, we'd be like, yeah, it's winter, we get strong east winds like this. But this is unusual for this early in the year. That's why it is historic. I want to take you outside right now and show you this scene from our Rose City Skycam. I mean, it looks, let me just say, it looks hellish out there right now with the sun through that smoky sky, visibility super low, as you can well imagine, and the wind is blowing it all around. It's a weird scene. It's a weird feeling because we've got the smoke, we've got the wind now at 36 miles an hour out of the Portland airport, and yet the air is really dry. The humidity is only 20%. All of those combinations, though, why the fire danger is so extreme. Now, I just got this video in from Pendleton where they've been dealing with dust storms and visibility. You think ours is bad? Theirs has been below a quarter of a mile several times this afternoon. Connie Maycumber sending in this video with winds well over 30 miles an hour in the Pendleton area. Here are some of the more extreme gusts that we've had so far. Rattlesnake Ridge is up in southeast Washington, had a gust of 90 miles an hour. It's a very exposed location. They get extreme winds like that. But Umatilla, Oregon, 50. The Dalles, 40. Maryhill, a gust of 48. Goldendale, a gust of 38 miles an hour. So it is already really ramped up on the east side. Look at that. Pendleton now sustained winds at 40, now down to 35. In Portland, those sustained winds at 36 miles an hour. So we look at this. This is our hour-by-hour wind forecast for the gusts through the next 7 hours. And from 9 o'clock on, all the gusts are over 40 miles an hour. And if I were to extend that graph till 5, 6 a.m., they'd still all be over 40 miles an hour. And some places like the West Hills and near the gorge will get gusts in the 60 to 65 mile an hour range. Look at this. Gusts over 50 miles an hour at the coast. Out of the east, gusts near 50 miles an hour in Portland. Cascade Locks, 53. And all that purple area may see gusts well over 50 miles an hour. Parts of the Cascades will get some gusts in the 75 to 80 mile an hour range tonight, which is why the fire danger is so extreme. So those strong east winds, I know they punched through in the last hour or so. They will continue to increase. There are your gusts, as I said, 55 to 65 in the windier spots. Down trees and power outages, Dan, that's what we're likely going to be hearing about more and more as we go through the evening hours. So couple things. This is not a night to have a barbecue. Anything that throws a spark, just forget about it right now with these strong winds. The air quality is bad, so you might want to roll up the window, keep the windows closed in your house, and we'll just have to get through this before those winds ease later in the day tomorrow. Back to you.
That picture you showed of the city, I don't know if we have that again to pop it up real quick, but it almost doesn't look like Portland. You're right, it does look like kind of a hellish landscape. What does this tell us about this season, or looking down the next couple of weeks or months when it comes to fire danger, wind? Is this just a single event, or does this paint a bigger picture?
No, it's a good question. Right now, this is just a single event. We're getting extremely cold air pouring down into the northern Rockies. They're going to get snow. That is why we're getting this strong wind, because we still have all this very warm to hot air here along the west coast. But this is more typical, to be honest with you, of a California-type situation where they get those strong winds. And it's similar to what caused the Camp Fire that destroyed Paradise, California, some of the wine area fires, even the Oakland Hills fire. That was all later in the year. That was like an October event. This type of pattern is more typical for October. So really, I would classify this as a one-off. I mean, weather does extreme and weird things. This is one of them.
Yeah, let's be responsible. Like you said, no barbecues tonight, nothing that's going to cause a spark. And let's get through this thing, hopefully without any fire danger whatsoever.
Exactly.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Now, for any of you who live near Mount Hood, it is possible that your power could get shut off over the next couple of days or so to prevent fires from breaking out in these conditions. See, PGE is warning about 5,000 homes right now along Highway 26 that they might have to shut off their power, like a planned blackout of sorts. And this would be the first time that PGE has ever shut power off like this because of a fire risk. What they're worried about is that wind would knock down a power line and that spark would start a fire, which would then spread really fast in the dry, windy weather. So the idea is if they turn those lines off, maybe they'll still get knocked down, but they won't start a blaze. Now, while this would be the first for Oregon, it's something that California has been doing a lot. You heard Matt kind of talk about it just a second ago with the Camp Fire, and it's because power lines sparked that enormous fire a couple of years ago. It was 2018, the Camp Fire in Paradise, California, became the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in the state's history. 85 people died. Tens of thousands of homes were destroyed. Investigators determined that it was, in fact, a spark by a power line owned by Pacific Gas and Electric, which I might mention is filing for bankruptcy over being sued over that and other fires they're accused of sparking. By the way, we should also mention that PG&E, that California utility company, is different from PGE, as in Portland General Electric. Now, while we've never experienced anything like the Camp Fire that devastating here in Oregon, Oregon has still had plenty of experience with wildfires. But considering the conditions today, we wanted to look back at how they started, what fueled them, especially in and around Portland. Here's what we found in the KGW Vault. We usually think of wildfires happening in forests, but that doesn't mean they can't spread in cities too. And we've seen some happen here in the Portland metro area. One happened last year, in fact. In August of 2019, wind quickly spread a grass fire in an abandoned driving range near Northeast 85th and Siskiyou. It destroyed a townhouse and another building and damaged 4 other townhouses, as well as some businesses like Lumberyard Bike Park and Cascade Auto, where the damage to their cars toppled $1 million. Police arrested a man for arson who's still awaiting trial. Back in 2001, a brush fire broke out on a bluff over the Willamette River near the University of Portland. It became one of the worst urban wildfires in the city's history. The wind spread the fire, threatening 100 homes. Neighbors tried to fend off the flames with garden hoses as firefighters pumped up water from the river and dropped it from the air. It ended up burning 38 acres. Some properties were damaged, but no homes were lost. And while we're talking about wind spreading fires, it's worth looking back at one of the worst recent fires outside of the metro area. The 2017 Eagle Creek fire in the Columbia River Gorge was sparked by a firework, then fueled by the east winds. But even those winds weren't nearly as strong as the winds forecasted for tonight. But that fire spread 20 miles in one evening and burned 50,000 acres, decimating a huge part of the gorge. All right, so I just got a message on Facebook from John Hofnagel, literally 1 minute ago. He said, Dan, cut the weather report, get to the news of the day. We have huge social issues to deal with. Okay, why don't we? Well, our hashtag HeyDan got swarmed with messages about this next story. Someone on YouTube posted this video claiming the city of Portland is housing and paying for an Antifa camp. It is not, but our Kristen Severance is here to verify it's actually temporary housing set up for homeless people during COVID-19.
Here is the video on YouTube. It even tags the show using the hashtag HeyDan. Now, it's been viewed hundreds of thousands of times, but we can verify the claims in this video are false.
But I've been wondering where this large crowd of agitators has been coming from.
The video, titled Portland Houses Rose City Antifa, was uploaded by the YouTube account Never Alone with Christ.
This is a war encampment.
The man narrating says the blue tents are where the protesters have been living.
This is where they house the rioters. This is where the rioters are housed.
But county officials say this is false. The camp was set up in April by several nonprofits, including Street Roots and Join, to provide homeless people a place to sleep during the pandemic. Dennis Thorald is the communications coordinator for the Portland-Multnomah County Joint Office of Homeless Services.
So is the city of Portland or the county housing, rioters, or is this an encampment for Antifa?
No, this is not an Antifa camp. This is a COVID-19 camp. These are sites that we set up in April. We opened them in April, started planning them in March, if not earlier, to give people who didn't have a safe place to be during a stay-at-home order, someplace where they could sleep, have social distancing, go to the restroom, wash their hands, get food, all the things that people do if they have a place to live that they can't do when they don't. So these camps were started for that reason, and they're still operating because we are still in the pandemic.
They all look over there.
Like many viral videos, this one took on a life of its own. After it was posted, we received emails, including this one from Sally L. Where is your story about Wheeler and City Council housing Antifa rioters at the secret tent city? Or this one from Bruce S. So, who is financing Camp Antifa? Or this one from Peter N. I dare you to actually investigate and report this location. The campsites are in 2 empty lots in southeast Portland, just east of the Hawthorne Bridge. They house 145 homeless people.
This is a camp right out in the open, covered in the news. We spend a lot of time putting it out there, very visible, and has been open since well before the protests over George Floyd's murder.
So again, we can verify claims that these blue tents are a secret Antifa camp paid for by the city of Portland are false.
Okay, Kristen, this is such a heated topic. Are they concerned at all for the safety of the people living down there?
Yes, 145 people living at this temporary shelter. The people that set it up, the county, they're monitoring the comments. They have volunteers looking out for these people, and police are monitoring the threats too.
Got it. Kristen, thank you.
You bet.
Now, at the end of the video, if you watch the whole thing, you can hear this person behind the camera who was filming the whole thing yelling, "There's Trumpet Man," as he tries to identify someone who he sees in the camp there. Now, if you don't know, Trumpet Man is a well-known figure at the protests and clashes with police. He's been arrested and detained several times. We have no idea if that was him in that camp video or not. We also don't know if there were people in that camp who have been involved in any of the protests or violence. Maybe they have. We have no clue, but we can confirm, and all we can really confirm is that this is not a city-funded, Antifa-driven war encampment. And I want to be as clear as possible about all of that, considering the people who are not being nearly as clear about the facts, like a candidate for the U.S. Senate who shared the video today with the title, "Antifa War Camp Discovered, Antifa Headquarters Located." I'm talking about Jo Rae Perkins. She posted the video to her Facebook page, which was almost immediately flagged by Facebook as false information. Perkins is the Republican candidate running against Senator Jeff Merkley. Her campaign has made national news because of her connection to the QAnon conspiracy theory that believes President Trump is leading the fight in a secret war against a global ring of pedophiles who drink the blood of children. So there's that. No police tactic, I will say, in Portland has gotten quite as much pushback as their use of tear gas, mostly because when it's deployed, it doesn't care if you are rioting, peacefully protesting, or just trying to sleep in your home with your wife and children. See, tear gas fills the streets, and that's exactly what it did in southeast Portland near Ventura Park on Saturday after the 100th day of protest devolved into another riot. But there's a little difference here, Police weren't lobbing tear gas canisters into downtown parks next to empty office buildings. These ones were going off in a residential neighborhood. And that brings us to our quote of the day from the man who lives there and discovered tear gas seeping into his home. Tamor Ender told us, quote, "Where do you buy a gas mask for a 1-year-old? Then,
if there's a fire, I would send firefighters. That's what I would do. I don't know why you have to gas half of East Portland because there's a dumpster fire. It's ridiculous. And now my wife's trying to determine if it's okay to breastfeed now that we've been exposed to tear gas.
Now, when we heard Ender say that, especially that last part, it got us wondering, too, about the potential side effects of tear gas constantly flooding the streets and the people who are standing in those streets or live nearby. See, we already know DEQ sent a letter to the city of Portland, concerned about particles reaching the Willamette River if we had a big rainstorm. And OPB reported in July about people having irregular menstrual cycles after they were exposed to a ton of tear gas night after night. Kaiser Permanente put out an anonymous survey about a month ago to try and learn more about the possible side effects of tear gas. They had thousands of responses in a matter of days, but they haven't released those results yet. We reached out to Kaiser to try and learn a little bit more. We haven't heard back yet, but we will let you know when we do. President Trump is campaigning on law and order, which I assume includes traffic laws. And journalists know a thing or two about deadlines, and now so does the Oregon GOP, which missed a pretty important one ahead of the election. When the story continues. Welcome back to The Story. Thank you to everyone for writing in using that hashtag #HeyDan. I want to get right into this next story because stuff went down in Salem today, not far from the Capitol steps. Now, this is how everything started a little earlier. Supporters of President Trump, they took to the streets in a long car caravan from Clackamas Community College towards Salem. There were enough cars to fill 2 parking lots full. And while President Trump's campaign has a hard platform on law and order, Sky 8 did catch a few people breaking a few traffic laws along the way, like hanging out of the sides of vehicles. Not safe. Don't do that. Also in attendance, members of right-wing Patriot Prayer and Proud Boys. New York Times reporter Mike Baker tweeted that all the vehicles belonging to Proud Boys members had tape over their license plate, which we should mention is against Oregon law. Last week, we talked to a PSU professor who studies right-wing extremist groups like the Proud Boys, and he gave us a better idea of what they believe, according to him.
How would you describe those organizations, those groups of people?
So the Proud Boys is actually a sort of official group with an actual hierarchy and an organization with chapters and protocols. You have to be engaged in some kind of political violence to move hierarchy. They actually have a uniform. And so that is a specific organization dedicated, they say, to what they call Western chauvinism and the defense of the West, Western civilization.
All right, so the car rallies organizers, they didn't release the event route until everybody got together today, but they did say that they would not go through Multnomah County. Instead, they went to Salem, where right-wing groups clashed with Black Lives Matter counter-protesters right in front of the Capitol. One of the videos here by Salem High School reporters here, a group of right-wing ralliers rushed the other group before Salem police got involved. We saw some arrests, but have no idea how many people have been arrested at this point. And some other videos online that shows right-wing ralliers with baseball bats hitting people, punching them while they're on the ground, using gay slurs. All this to say, people do love to give Portland a hard time, especially when it comes to these protests, right, and what we have seen. But this is far from just a Portland thing. All right, let's talk about the elections right now for just a second, because we're less than 2 months away from November 3rd, if you can believe it. Now, I have to say my favorite political stories are the really kind of strange, weird, off-the-wall, almost funny ones that make you go, wait, what? Come on. This kind of falls into that category, and it's one that we think is worth your time from OPB. It turns out the Oregon Republican Party missed the deadline to get their statement in the voters pamphlet by 29 seconds. Yeah, you heard me right, 29 seconds. Well, that's what Secretary of State's office says anyway. The Republican Party insists that they actually turned it in early by 4:59 p.m. on August 25th, which would have made the deadline by a minute. So now they're going to court over the whole thing, claiming partisan discrimination. But we should point out that the Secretary of State, Bev Clarno, is also a Republican, and her office says that they have to apply these deadlines for everyone equally. We're hoping to talk to some Republican Party officials tomorrow to see what they plan to do next. What are the next steps for them? Now, before all that smoke rolled in today, one of our photographers got out into nature. John Goodwin climbed to the top of Mount Defiance in the gorge a couple of weeks ago, and he wanted to bring us along.
Oh, we're back today. Mount Defiance, brutal, in the Columbia River Gorge. We've bitten off a little more than we can chew today. Lance, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, but I felt better.
First little break. 2/3 of a mile about some nicely paved trail. And it breaks off into the real trail. Look at the train down there.
Tell me that was 1,000 feet. It don't say 500.
Yeah, 1,000 feet.
Oh, okay. All right, we gotta do that 3 more times.
It is really fast.
James! Oh! Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Seems a lot of pain today for us.
Yeah.
Quick little hydration break here. There's a fine line between being demoralized and being tired. We're now walking through a section of the forest here where the Eagle Creek fire came through a few years ago. There's some charred stumps and just fallen trees. It's pretty impressive. It's easy to forget to take in the scenery up here because you're slogging up such a gruesome hill. Coming up, we finally caught a glimpse of Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens, and even Mount Rainier off to the north. We're just steps away from the summit of Mount Defiance, where I'm pretty sure we'll have an amazing view of Mount Hood, especially on a day like this. Oh, look at this. All right. I sweated through my hat completely, so I put on the bandana. And we made it to the top of Mount Defiance, 4960 elevation. That's what the sign said over there. Nice. How do you feel?
Actually pretty good. If you're up for hiking stairs like Empire State Building 2.5 times, this is your route, man.
A lot of pain. We got a nice payoff though up here. View of Mount Hood. You can see it in the distance. The wide angle doesn't really do you any favors, but we made it. Thanks for coming along. Hope you enjoyed.
That was fun. Nice to feel. I mean, it's a holiday, right? We can relax a little bit. And I got the tie on. It's a perfect time right now. Use that Hey Dan hashtag. We're going to read some comments, answer some questions right after this break when we finish the story. A quick comment here from Tony White. We were talking about when we read the story about the Trump caravan, people were hanging out of the cars on the freeway, and we said, hey, don't do that. That's dangerous and it's against the law. Tony White said Antifa obeys traffic laws, right? Blocked bridges are okay, standing in freeway is cool. Thanks for showing your true colors. I'm so tired of this yeah, but politics stuff. You bring up something and say, this is against the law, you're not supposed to do this. And people go, yeah, but what about the other side? Yeah, but what about this person? Yeah, but what about that person? It didn't work with me when I was 10 and would say it to my parents. Doesn't work with my 3-year-old kids now when one gets in trouble and they say, yeah, but he. So why are we adopting that now to discuss how we deal with social issues and politics in this country? I don't get it. I don't get it. Tony, write back to me. Let's have a conversation about it. And you all want to have a conversation? Hey, Dan, it's the best way to do it. I'll see you back here tomorrow. That's the story.